Nobody could have predicted the IEM Major Rio champion, and we've got that and much more to talk to you about on this week's episode of HLTV Peek. My name is King Demps, I'm your host. Let's get stuck into some news. IEM Rio is now done and dusted, and it was one of the most dramatic majors of all time, with shock upsets and magical underdog runs all over the place. Last week we told you that NIP and FaZe had suffered surprise eliminations. Well, there were more surprises to come, as both Liquid and Vitality failed to make the playoffs. The two finalists of ESL Pro League fell to ENCE and Spirit respectively. This really was the major of fallen favourites. The air of upsets continued into the playoffs as Na'Vi and Cloud9 both fell at the first hurdle. Na'Vi were the biggest name left in the competition, but their stature did not prevent Furia from knocking them out. The Brazilian squad rode a high of deafening support from the home crowd to eliminate the CIS squad 2-1. Cloud9, on the other hand, were dispatched off by MOUZ, largely due to the underperformance of their star rifler, Axile. There really are no easy games in top tier CS. With all of the favourites gone, it seemed like Furia were destined to take the trophy on home turf. However, Heroic arrived at the semi-finals with all guns blazing to send the Brazilian squad packing. Outsiders awaited Heroic in the grand final, and the CIS squad emphasised their excellent performance throughout the tournament, comfortably brushing the Danes aside 2-0 to take the trophy. It's a first major victory for all of the Outsiders team and was an impressive major debut victory for both Fame and Norbert. Jame, their IGL and AWPer, secured himself the major MVP and produced one of the highlight clutches of the entire tournament in the process. Jame time means clutch time now. With that result, Outsiders also secured their spot at the Blast World Final, which will take place in December. There were some grumbles to come out of the IEM Rio Major, and the crowd was a major talking point within the community, with some pointing out the hot and cold nature of the atmosphere throughout the event. Specifically, the attendance inside the arena was pointed to as an issue by many. However, that was variable throughout the playoffs, and of course the venue was packed to the rafters when Furia played. The Fan Festival, which was put on by ESL outside of the venue, was often cited as a reason for poor attendance inside the arena. There was also an incident mentioned by Simple on Twitter of an incident where a Na'Vi player was spat on by a fan, which is not a great look for any event in esports. How did you at home feel about the IEM Rio Major, and how does it compare to the majors of the past? It wouldn't be a week in esports without some roster news, and so Eternal Fire have begun their rebuild by bringing Calix back into the fold. He was one of the founding members of the organisation when it went live in August 2021, however he was benched in January of 2022 due to personal reasons. There is one slot left on the Eternal Fire roster left to be filled, so stay tuned for more information on that one. We have a couple of final bits of news to talk to you about, and the most interesting is that Astralis will attend their first event since the return of their superstar AWPer to Vice without device. Yeah. Astralis will attend the Eliza Masters Espu without their AWPer, and they have said in a statement that whilst they're excited to have him back on the team, they do not want to force anything. Gotta be honest, it's news to me that asking your Counter-Strike players to play Counter-Strike is forcing anything. The Danes instead will head to the event in Finland with their Academy AWPer Kristu. Speaking of the event in Finland, the Eliza Masters Espu is set to kick off on November 16, with 12 teams battling it out for the lion's share of a $200,000 prize pool. Top 20 teams like Big, ENCE, Fnatic and Bad News Eagles will be in attendance, alongside some other notable major attendees like Gamer Legion and Sprout. Head over to HLTV's event page for a full rundown on that tournament. And Config has brought to a close his recent saga by releasing a statement that he is ready to return to competitive play, mere months after he parted ways with Astralis amidst news that he was involved in a physical altercation with a bar representative in Malta. The Dane also provided some further insight onto his recent troubles in an interview with Deserto, stating that he was a little bit surprised that Astralis had decided to release him, and also saying that he was confident that the decision came from the organisation and not the players. If you want to get all of the information on his statement as well as his interview with Deserto, head over to HLTV.org's article on the subject. A link will be provided down in the description. And that's all for this week's episode of HLTV Peek. If you missed the major and you want to get knee deep in that major vibe, please head over to HLTV.org because we have tons of content, video, text and otherwise, all come straight from the event. Remember to like the video if you want to see more and repeat in a week for another episode. Until then, I'll see you next time.